Facebook's Careless People, and Apple AirPods Max go lossless for some. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Slack. Discussions, questions, and answers, and a place to talk tech with your friends. The MacVoices Slack is available to all patrons of MacVoices. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices and join in. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's MacVoices Live, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We missed you last week, and that was my fault because I was a bit under the weather. And if you listen carefully, you may hear that I'm still a little under the weather. The voice and the throat still catch once in a while. So if I cough at you, I'll try to edit them out, and I will apologize to the folks who are listening live who don't get the coughs edited out. But, here we go. And I do want to definitely say thank you to everyone who was kind enough to reach out and send their best health wishes along. We kind of pulled the plug on the show last week at not exactly the last minute, but close enough. And so just for future reference, if that happens, if you get here and can't find us, check social media under my accounts, and definitely check the MacVoices blog on the website. We'll try to post notices there if we're having to do a short notice cancellation. Unfortunately, speaking of cancellations, we will be dark next week because, assuming that I am healthy enough to travel, I'll be at NAB in Las Vegas. And so because of the timing, it just means that, it's still the middle of the day out there, or still the middle of the working day. So just look for us the following Tuesday, assuming everything goes well, which I fully expect it to. With that, we have 2 weeks of stuff to catch up on here, last week and this week, and a lot of stories, some that bear some discussion, some we just want to make you aware of. But I want to make you aware of, before we do that, everyone who's here. So we're going to run the table real quick. First up, David Ginsburg in his usual perch up top left. David, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Glad you're feeling a little better. We're happy we're here to catch up on all the news. There's a lot of good stuff this week. And
There is. Marty Gencius is here, looking ominous in black. Marty, good to have you.
Chuck, I was feeling a little down today and feeling kind of disconnected from friends and such, and that's why I'm dressed in dark colors for that purpose. And then finally, I thought the way to fix it is to hand out really huge checks. So I'm making big checks up. Now they're large checks, but they're only 3 cents. So I'm going to have a great time with this.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure how much influence you can buy for 3 cents, but it's worth a shot. Also suffering from being a little under the weather, and I'm glad he's back, because it seemed like, even though we live in different sides of the country, that Jeff Gamet and I both came down with something similar at the same time. So, Jeff, I hope you're feeling at least as good, if not better, than I am.
I hope you're feeling better than I am. And if this is what you call a little under the weather, what we've both experienced over the last week, I do not ever want to experience what you would consider to be really sick. Because holy forking shirt balls, this has been surprisingly bad.
Yeah. I get it. I hear your voice catching too. So we'll just have to soldier on. That's just what we do here.
That's how dedicated we are.
Amen. Speaking of dedicated, Brian Flanagan-Arthurs is here. Brian, good to have you. I'm glad you're back. I know you had a couple of weeks off there, and then we went dark on you just as you were getting back. So I'm glad you're here tonight.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here, and so glad to be with all of you guys. and hope the illness doesn't go over the internet waves here on Zoom. Knock on wood, I'm trying to stay healthy. It's busy time with testing these next couple weeks at school. So,
yeah, happily, I don't think we can spread the kind of viruses that Jeff and I may have in this fashion. So that's the good news.
I hope not.
Yeah. If it is, we have a new medical phenomenon.
Here's a good test.
now my nose is running.
Eric Bolden is here, and we were talking pre-show about exactly what he has in his background. Eric, you want to enlighten us?
It's early spring, so the crocuses are all coming up. This is the yellow one. Don't have all the rest of the fun colors yet, but this is one of the early ones in a nice sunny spot. So,
okay,
a little bit of color.
I didn't know. I don't know anything about crocuses, so I didn't know they came in colors.
Yeah, white ones and blue ones and a bunch of colors I can't see, and purple maybe. Not sure.
We've got white and blue ones right outside our front door, and it's like a rite of spring when we walk down that first day and they've emerged. It's like, it's wonderful.
Yeah. You get striped ones too. Those are neat.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to use the striped one as a segue into Webb Bixby and his very dynamic background. Webb, it looks like you've got your own version of stripes going on.
Yeah, that's the latest creation for my wife that I kind of put in on the green screen. You were talking about dedicated. I thought we had to be committed because, trust me, I need to be committed.
Dedicated, committed, it all kind of goes together, But yeah, the Quilt Queen has outdone herself. Those are spectacular.
I got about 6 more all lined up ready for us. So,
oh, great,
nice,
great. Oh, you just had her chained to the loom, making it work. Last but absolutely not least, going headless there for a second, Mr. Jim Ray. Jim, good to have you.
Something just fell, and I'm not sure what it was. I'll investigate in a moment.
Okay, well, it obviously
it's
was nothing.
WWDC time again, so I've got my dub background.
I like it. Well, let's get to it. The first one I wanted to bring up is one of the things when you're laying there and not just feeling like doing much of anything is you can listen to things. And so I took a listen in my Audible subscription to a book called Careless People, A Cautionary Tale of Power, Greed, and Lost Idealism. This is the book by Sarah Wynne Williams that Facebook has been trying to stop. And after reading the book, I know why they tried to stop it. It was very, I'm not sure I want to call it a tell-all. It was just a very direct reporting, at least from her perspective, on her time at Facebook, from working at a lower level up to working into senior management, and her interactions with Zuckerberg and all of the other players that you already know. I tried to apply Chuck's 50% rule to this. And my 50% rule is that if you dismiss 50% of the most salacious, most damning things, is it worth paying attention to? And what does it say about the topic of the book? And even if with a 50% reduction, it says a lot. And I really, if you want to go, you can find book reviews all over the internet. I don't want to spoil anything here, but I am going to suggest that you add this to your reading list or listening list or whatever, because some of the stories are, as you would expect, there's some things that really, in my mind, came right out of left field that speak to naivete and innocence and maliciousness from the early days and carrying right on through to some of what we're seeing today. So I think it is well worth your time And I don't know if anybody has had a chance to look at it or know anything about it. From what my understanding of the reporting is, that Facebook has been successful in having the author banned from promoting the book, which of course just makes it all the more interesting. You want to read why they don't want her out there promoting it. So you won't find any interviews with her and discussing it, but the book stands for, and speaks for itself. And so I encourage you to go and check it out. So Jim, you asked a fair question. Was I interested in reading this before Facebook tried to block it? Honestly, I would have gotten around to it, but when any company decides they're going to try to block a book, I think it makes you curious about what is so damning that's in it that makes people want to say to take. I mean, it's an obvious thing. If you're going to take legal action against it, it's just going to generate that much more buzz about it. And so instead of just letting this go and leaving it alone, they had to do it, and they were successful to some degree. But I think it probably drove as much interest, if not more.
That's called the
think they were
Streisand
the
effect.
opposite of successful.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Yeah, Jeff's exactly right. Made famous by Barbra Streisand, but no one seems to ever learn that lesson.
Yeah. Brian?
I was saying, as soon as you mentioned it, I looked it up and it sounded really interesting. So I reserved it at my library, but it's about 18 weeks wait. So it certainly is very popular. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else has anybody else paid any attention to this story at all?
I have
I've
not.
definitely heard about it.
Okay.
But
it's
because of the fact that they banned it, and TechDirt covered it because of that, and they love talking about the Streisand effect over at TechDirt. So whenever anybody does one of these dumb things, they always cover it. So I haven't had time to read any books at all, but it definitely got my attention. And also, I'm kind of like, is this news? I mean, did we not know that all this kind of stuff was going on at Facebook? Doesn't shock me at all.
Jim, I'm not going to lie to you. There were some things in there that did shock me. That I've from farther back as well as more recently. That just you in today's world.
Spill.
No, I don't know what I want to spell because I don't want to ruin the book for people, and I don't want to spoil things. But it's just like, really? I mean, it's one of those things that in today's world, people still engage in this kind of behavior and think it's okay, or more importantly, think they can get away with it. I just don't understand. So,
Well, haven't they gotten away with it?
Well, that's a fair question. Do they get away with it?
It's in a book, so
does
what?
Does getting called out on it at this point? And what does it say about the people that go through these things or are I hate the word
get
victim,
elected
but
to a high office?
Well, I'm not going to go there, but the people that are involved, in this case, the author, was subjected to certain things and sat there and took it and didn't do any more than that. Now, years later, she's writing a book. Okay, so is that retribution or payback or whatever? I guess it depends on how you look at it, but it still does not excuse the behavior itself. Barry just in the chat room put in, it says currently number 3 on the New York Times combined print and ebook nonfiction list. He put it on hold in his library too, a 12-week wait. So there you go.
Number 2 on the Amazon chart. And although I've heard about it, I haven't followed it. I just went ahead and got the Kindle edition. So I'll take a look at it.
I should.
Considering all the publicity Sarah Wynne Williams has gotten out of this, excuse me, and the sales that this book has received, very likely because Facebook was actively working to stop her from promoting the book. Maybe she should send Mark Zuckerberg a fruit basket, because I think this worked out in her favor.
Oh, I think it did, Jeff. I agree. So let's see. There was one other comment I wanted to mention. Oh, Eric, you said you enjoyed the one particular chapter, and again, I don't want to spoil anything. So have you been through the whole book, or did you just pick a random chapter?
No, this is one of those stories that's good in a physical book because you can kind of skip around. It doesn't seem to matter too much, or at least for me. I just, because of everything going on in Myanmar recently, I thought, well, I'll start with that chapter. Why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was sort of neat, the effects of how people get information when it's a little bit restricted, and if you restrict it too much, so there's only one way to get it, then there's not enough checks and balances. It makes me value reporters and multiple sources of information.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Good point.
spoil it, so I don't want to say more than that, but it was a nice chapter.
Yeah, good point. I also should make very clear, the Audible version is read by the author. And
really?
so that makes it even more, I think, more personal. You know, frankly, I didn't realize it until I was about 3/4 of the way through the book, but it's just well done. And I'm not usually one in to tell all books or anything like that, but this was tech oriented, and I felt like it was important enough to mention on the show here. And it was a perfect time for me to, listen to something that I didn't have to pay deadly attention to, but it caught my attention and kept it there. So it's worth your time. Apple has won a patent infringement battle with a patent troll, according to Apple World today. Federal court sided with Apple against Bill J. Co., which is defined as a patent troll. They filed a lawsuit in the District Court of West Texas. And guess what? They challenged it and won. So it's just something to be aware of, but one for the good guys, especially since Apple's been such a target of patent trolls.
Good for Apple.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we have to point out the wins when we can get them. A number of these first few things are just almost PSAs or information. Just in case you missed it, though, Apple has lowered its interest rate for the Apple Card savings account. It still beats out my local banks here from a money market standpoint. It seems to be following the downward trend for CDs and all. And, there you go. So if you are an Apple Card savings account holder, just be aware that you may be getting a little bit less. And maybe check it against any of the other options you have, if that matters to you. Dave, you just dropped in a different story on the Apple Card.
Yeah, it just got posted today, and it's Visa and American Express are vying to win Apple Card deal in the fierce fight, and they want to pay approximately $100 million to be the first new payment network for Apple Card. It's legitimate source. It's the Wall Street Journal. Right now, of course, Apple Card's on the MasterCard payment network, but that is set to change, possibly with Apple due to ending its partnership with Goldman Sachs. But there's a fierce battle. American Express and Visa is looking to replace MasterCard, but I think Apple wants to do first is get the network in place before they choose they choose which network they're going to go with. So interesting that this is like the first story that they've been talking about with the Apple Card for like some time, because I think Goldman Sachs discussion was well known that it was something that they're not happy. They're not making any money. They're losing their shoot. They want to get out of the consumer market. And but you also look at Apple Card has 12 million users worldwide in the United States. Of course, it's not outside the United States, but that's pretty impressive, honestly. So I think American Express and Visa they're looking their chops on this one to see if they can get their hands on it.
Well, Brian pointed out something that honestly I forgot about. So, Brian, if you want to bring it up, and because none of the stories that I picked for tonight.
Well, I was mostly joking, but just noting the date, of the 1st of April for the publication of the story. But yeah, it looks like it's, it's backed up and everything. So
I wouldn't think Wall Street Journal would be publishing something like this as a April Fool joke.
Yeah. And there would be probably, I would think of maybe more outlandish things if they were going to go down that pathway.
Honestly, I forgot about it being April 1st. I didn't see anything notable
either
in the news feeds this morning that were just. There was one podcast that did something that was completely obvious, and then they called themselves out immediately. But other than that, it's been kind of a quiet April Fool's. Maybe because the news itself is so crazy that nobody can believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, can't make this stuff up. Jim Ray, this is for you. That the AirPods Pro, the AirPods Max are gaining lossless audio and low latency in iOS 18.4.
I think that's the new USB-C ones.
That's correct.
Yeah. Is it? Okay. Okay. And
which is
what you have Lightning?
I have the old ones, which I think already had those things.
Oh, I don't think so.
I didn't think any of them. I didn't think the Apple AirPods had lossless at all. But
we talked about this, and it's kind of fresh in my mind. The debate was, okay, Apple releases the new Apple AirPods Max with the USB-C port. Is it worthy of an upgrade? Not really. You already have the ones with the Lightning. It's fine. It still charges. Nothing's different. But now all of a sudden, all this time goes by, and then all of a sudden, Apple announces that they're adding lossless audio and all that to give much better sound. And you only can do it because USB-C is the only thing that can drive that. You have to plug in a cord. Of course, Apple's selling now a USB-C to 3.5-inch jack cord that you can do that to plug it in to that jack. But
they did sell a Lightning to 3.5-inch jack.
Yeah, but the problem is this: it's not in the actual headset itself because the technology was not is added to USB-C, and Apple never said anything about it.
Well, I don't know about lossless, but you could do it with a wire.
Yeah, you can still do it with a wire, but you can't get the lossless audio. I was we missed you last week, right, Jeff? This would have been right up your alley and your expertise on audio. What did you think of this?
Clearly I'm choked up. Yet the news was like, okay, this is actually good news, and at the same time it's salt in the wound for I think anyone that has AirPods, or excuse me, the words, people, they're not in my head. The big ones.
AirPods Max.
Thank you. Because I feel like this is something that should have been part of the original AirPods Max, and it's not there. So, on one hand, finally, a feature that should have been a part of this product from day one, especially at the price point, is there. But it's only there for some of the users.
Yep.
Jeff, first of all, I'd love to know what the reason was that it was not included in the original. So that's the first thing, because you have to know that Apple did not intentionally leave this out just to be malicious and say, okay, so we can add it back in later. That would have just made no sense, since there were so many lossless options out there already. So there had to be a good reason. And given that, if you go with that conclusion, that would preclude an upgrade. You would probably there's some piece of hardware, some chip or whatever in there that gems can't be converted to.
I have a hypothesis.
Go for it.
And I will preface this with, yes, I'm still sick, and I tend to be a little cranky when I'm sick. I think that Apple never intended to bring USB-C to AirPods Max at all. But when the EU pushed them into having to adopt USB-C, they went ahead and updated the AirPods Max. And at the same time, I think they probably updated a chip that it just kind of went unnoticed. And now they're at a point where they're like, all right, we can do it. Let's do it.
Okay, that's not unreasonable, but why would they?
I want the chance for rebuttal.
Okay,
I'm all for rebuttal.
Why would Apple want to continue with the Lightning interface?
I think all they wanted was the charging out of it. And I think that they had something else in mind for charging, like maybe a future model would charge in a fashion similar to an Apple Watch or something, where you're magnetically connecting something to it.
But wouldn't you think they would have done that by now?
I'm
sorry, Jim.
I think they abandoned that because they went to USB-C.
I just bought something for my AirPods Max about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if I can. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little magnetic dongle stuck into the Lightning port.
Oh, that's super cool. That is super
cool. I bought this little stand, and it came with a dongle, and it actually came with two dongles, one Lightning and one USB-C. So if I ever get the other one, if I haven't lost that dongle, which I probably already have. And anyway, so now, I mean, Apple totally, this is what Apple should have come out with, originally. I just take it off and I set it on that thing, and it instantly goes into sleep mode and starts charging. And I never have to plug it in. I don't have to use that stupid case.
The bra.
It's fantastic. The bra, yeah.
That's super cool.
Jim, there are a couple of those. Yeah, there are a couple of those things out there, because I've seen those little dongles for Lightning iPad. Yeah, I said that right. Lightning iPads, and even some before MagSafe came back for Macs. That you had these dongles that would fit in there and are kind of breakaway that make it easy. So,
this is a set. It's a stand, and then it comes with the little dongle. So the dongle interfaces with the stand. So you're not buying the dongle so by itself. It comes together, and the stand plugs into USB-C. So it's because I always was like, it was so awkward with what to do with this thing when it wasn't on. And now it just sits right there, and it's awesome. I think it's something pretty new. Do I have a link for it? Yeah, because I got it on Amazon. Because I had bought another stand a few months ago, and then it didn't have this feature. And then this came up in my Amazon Amazon's like, hey, look at this. And I'm like, wait, what? And so I bought it, and it was like, dang, it is just as good as, it's exactly what I always wanted. So let me find the link. Oh,
Yeah, if you'll throw it in our
bought it
chat,
from-
I'll make sure that's in both the live chat here for our folks tonight, and also in the show notes. Marty, while Jim is looking for the link.
Yeah, I think it's Jim, you found a really cool connector and way to recharge. I know we're talking about Apple stuff here primarily, but Meta, the Oculus Vision headset, has one of those little things that you plug into the side like Jim's, and it comes with a stand, or you can buy a stand to do that, and you just drop it in there and it does the charging without having to deal with all the cables. So I think it's a cool way of doing things, and I'd like to see more devices have those options.
Marty,
this is very disappointing. It has disappeared from Amazon. I'm looking at it. I got it on March 2nd, and I clicked the link, and it says, sorry, we couldn't find that page.
Bummer.
Let me see if I can find it again. If it's maybe just.
Marty, did you say that you're in the market for a new set of headphones?
Yeah, I need it, because I use these so often, the first gen. And basically I'm reminded I have them every time I move my knee under the desk and it hits them. I gotta buy a new set of headphones so I can swap out the headphones that I don't use for a new set of headphones that I don't use. I use the bone conducting and like to hear what else is going on around in my environment generally.
I don't know. Is anybody else here have the AirPods Max?
I do. My wife has them, and I use them once in a while.
Okay. Had Web, Dave,
and I got mine right when they first came out too, and I like them. I wish it had USB-C on it.
You mean
I
for the
like
lossless?
it so much I'm going to spend another $450 to get it. No, but and the Apple Lossless is not what I'm willing to do, because I still like them as a wireless device as opposed to putting the USB-C and and connecting them by wire. But yeah, I've had them since the very beginning, and I like them a lot. So
okay. Jim just gave us a link, and so it's in the chat room. It will be in the show notes. The headphone charging station for AirPods 2024. Nice, Jim. Thank you.
Sure.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.